President Tinubu condemns latest attack in Plateau State, charges Governor Mutwang to resolve underlying communal issues.
Federal government to modernize federal statutes.
Harmonize the output across working groups and set the tone for the final stages of these important projects.
And PDP Governors Forum meet in Ibadan, resolves to approach Supreme Court for interpretation of provisions of declaration of state of emergency.
Constitute a zoning committee that will address all issues relating to zoning of the party offices and hold an early convention in August 2025.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on the 2025 flood outlook.
All right, so we're at it again. This time, federal government raised alarm over impending floods set to hit 30 states and the FCT this year. Among those states are the flood-prone areas of Bayelsa, Kogi, Anambra, Delta, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Ebonyi, Edo, and of course Lagos.
True. Now, the 2025 annual flood outlook presented by the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Otsef, revealed that northern states like Borno, Jigawa, Adamawa, and Zamfara are highly vulnerable from this month.
And the flood outlook further shows that more than 1,200 communities in 176 LGAs in 30 states and the FCT fall within the impending high flood risk areas.
Of course, the federal government will begin a nationwide flood awareness campaign in May to educate and sensitize Nigerians on the risks and likely impact of the impending flood.
So, in January, a joint assessment of 18 states showed that floods of 2024 impacted 3 million people, claiming close to 700 lives, displacing 896,000 people.
Not a good one at all, and we're not hoping for a repeat of that. Now, it's pertinent to note that the leading cause of flooding from the natural perspective is excessive rainfall, which has become difficult to predict due to the forces of climate change. All of that would unpack on the program this morning. I'm Ian Ray John. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, we keep blaming climate change, but our guests will give us insight into, the nitty-gritty of the whole issues. And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. I thank you for joining us again this morning. And of course, it's live on the network service of the NTA, Nigeria's largest, or should I say, Africa's largest TV network.
Of course, that's the right thing.
All right, shortly, we will commence with highlights of the morning news, and of course, much later, Chukwudi Okolugbaja will be joining us for the newspaper review. For now, we'll join our colleague, Zemret Dingmung, for the news, and it's an all ladies affair.
Good morning, Claire and Ian Ray. And here's the morning news. President Bola Tinubu has expressed profound sorrow over the recent bloodshed in Plateau State, a tragedy that claimed the lives of over 40 individuals. In a statement by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the President strongly condemns the violence and extends his sympathies to Governor Caleb Mutfwang, the state government and the people of Plateau State, while urging him to summon the necessary political will to resolve the crisis and establish enduring peace. In his call for harmony among the people of Plateau State, President Tinubu emphasizes the importance of love and unity beyond religious and ethnic lines. He encourages community, spiritual and political leaders within and beyond the state to unite and end the cycle of retaliatory attacks that have made life unbearable for affected communities. And the federal government says it is committed to the modernization, consolidation and harmonization of Nigeria's body of federal statutes. The Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, stated this at the second retreat of the Committee on Revision and Consolidation of Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to 2024 in Abuja.
Collaboration process, harmonize the output across working groups, and set the tone for the final stages of these important projects.
And the federal government is partnering with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, to effectively enhance the implementation of regional partnership for democracy across West Africa. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga gave the assurance when he received in audience the UNDP resident representative Nigeria, Ms. Elsie Atafwa in Abuja.
Works on the assumption of some basic truths, and when truth itself is under threat and it becomes blurred and difficult to discern, then democracy itself is under threat. This makes it difficult for democracy to function.
The People's Democratic Party (PDP) Governors Forum, at the end of its meeting in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, has resolved to approach the Supreme Court for interpretation on the provisions on the declaration of state of emergency law. Chairman PDP Governors Forum and Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed stated this while briefing newsmen after the meeting.
The subnationals to constitute an effective line of defense against security breaches. While raising the concerns above, we condemn the recent attacks in Plateau State and commiserate with the government and people of the state, especially those who lost their lives and properties.
And from Rivers State, a group under the aegis of Rivers Women for Good Governance have staged a protest in Port Harcourt in support of the state of emergency. They are calling for the setting up of a commission of inquiry into the burning of State House of Assembly. The women also expressed satisfaction with the leadership of the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas.
Is that proper? No. The House of Assembly was burned down and later demolished. Is that proper? No. Government has been running on two trunks. Is that proper?
We are here to thank Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that we are happy that he brought about the state of emergency.
Former First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan has been given the Global Women's Peace Ambassador Award by the Women's Federation for World Peace International at its 2025 Universal Peace Federation World Summit in Seoul, South Korea. This is in recognition of her contributions to peace and upliftment of families across the globe. Dame Patience Jonathan thanks the organizers of the award for recognizing the invaluable contributions of women in peace building, saying that the honor is a call for action and greater commitment to serve humanity. While thanking her husband, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, and the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, for encouragement and support, Dame Patience Jonathan pledges continued advocacy for women's rights, peace building and social justice. She also commits to inspiring other women to build peaceful and progressive societies. And those are the news highlights. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Ian after this break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social-economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
The new Happic sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just 1 sachet for your toilet bowl. It gives 10 times better cleaning and big savings too.
Wow, Helen!
Sparkling clean toilet with Happic sachet.
The future belongs to the dreamers, to the doers, to those who are not afraid of the side hustle. It's for those who are ready to turn their passion into something big. And to help keep you revitalized and inspired, Top Tea is with you every step of the way. You are made for more. Find your inspiration. Top Tea, big round bags of flavor.
The world needs mums. With a splash of Golden Terra oil, a mum can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra oil, for pure love.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead demands peak performance from our bodies.
Like never before, our bodies need an optimum supply of essential nutrients, and Supermalt supports our daily nutritional needs.
Supermalt has 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and natural extracts for overall health and wellness. 1 Supermalt a day gives you energy and vitality, improves your mental performance, and supports your immunity.
So why do you need Dettol 12-hour protective shield?
Why? Come, let me show you. From my husband's germ-filled journey to war, to his daily interaction, touching where everyone has touched, and the sweaty journey back home. What else can give you all day long protection?
Germs are everywhere, but Dettol's 12-hour protective shield shields your family every day,
Keeping them safe, healthy, happy, and successful.
Dettol, be 100% sure.
When you're low on energy and need a break, give yourself a treat. Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Smooth. Crafted from cocoa, milk, and sugar. Creamy. Chocolatey. Frothy goodness. Rich taste. So satisfying.
Cadbury 3-in-1 Hot Chocolate. The treat you deserve.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins, The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and up next is newspaper review.
And we have the man boy or boy man, Chooks the boy.
Boyish man.
Like say man woman. I am who I am. You
Man woman?
She's capable of anything.
Someone said you keep making us laugh.
Oh yeah, yes. So they say.
Yeah.
I don't come here with the intention to make you laugh. The problem is that laughter is my life.
Yeah.
A lady said, Chukwudi, if I see you wear a frown for up to 1 hour, I panic. It's unlike you. It's not in your nature.
You know what they say. You know what they say about smiles and frowning your face and with the muzzles and all that you use, and of course, so it's good to smile.
It's good to smile.
Yeah.
Actually, before we welcome you to the program, we are welcoming you. My people say, "Onye we walk anjo." If you add annoyance to the problem on the ground, hypertension fits hello.
Shall we?
All right, let's see what the papers have this morning. So I'm welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, according to Chukwudi. All right, so we'll look at what the Daily Times is offering this morning. The lead story here says Nigeria targets top 80 on Global Human Capital Index by 2030. That's according to the federal government, and it is the lead story on the Daily Times. Below the picture story, we have the Vice Chancellor of Federal University Oye Ekiti suspended over sexual harassment allegations. That's on page 11. VC Federal University Oye Ekiti suspended over sexual harassment allegations. And next to that, 2027 elections will be a huge joke if Edo Tribunal ruling is not reversed. That's according to Amadi, and that's on page 16. Students' loan. NOA accuses tertiary institutions of short-changing students. You ask why. All the details on, or rather in the Daily Times this morning. Military rescues 16 kidnapped passengers in Plateau. And that's in a red strip, and that's at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Times. Finally, from the Daily Times, we are not part of Atiku El-Rufai Obi's coalition. And that's according to PDP governors. All right, let's look away from the Daily Times now, see what the blueprint has this morning. PDP leads, the blueprint leads with PDP governors rock Atiku's 2027 ambition, oppose coalition. The writers reject Anyanwu, named Deputy National Secretary as scribe, fixed neck for May 27. Ex-VP Bala's children trade words over parents' ambition. All right, away from all of that, below the picture story, We have gunmen kill 47 in Plateau, fresh attacks. PLSG, that's Plateau State Government, urges caution. Riders, clerics kick over arrest of youth linked to ESWAP. Below that, 8 applicants lose Kwara Tescom jobs for failing drag tests. That's on page 13. Women group protest in support of Rivers emergency rule. That's on all the papers this morning. And in the green strip at the bottom of the blueprint, institutions conniving with banks to change NEL fund beneficiaries. That's according to NOA. And finally, at the top of the paper, just above the masthead, we have Niger Delta. Troops snap 28 suspects for re-establishment of bunkering sites. All right, Claire.
Okay, so let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper, and it has a number of stories that I'd like to pick out. AFCTA, Nigeria waives duties on 90% of goods traded in Africa, and that's on page 3. And the lead story, Gencos threatened shut down over 4 trillion Naira debt as Band A customers protest. It's on page 6. NBA Rivers trade words over conference, a 300 million Naira refund. And JAM is warning new upgraded institutions against illegal admissions. That story you can read up on page 30. And on the left-hand column, Nigeria loses $2 billion yearly to medical tourism, says party. It's on page 7. And work to be privatized, board chairman warns NIPOST. It's also trading on the front page of the Guardian. And I think that's about the stories that were taken from the front page of the Guardian. Chukwudi, how do you stand?
The Nigerian initiative waiving duties on 90% of goods traded in Africa is the way it should be. In fact, it should be tutelage to the American president. Free trade ensures not just economic stability, but also economic prosperity. However gifted you are in life, there is something your neighbor has that you need. And when you all grow this mutual desire to exchange, you find out that everyone smiles home at the end of the day. Let us explore Asian opportunities, Latin American opportunities, US, UK opportunities, European opportunities. But charity should begin where? At home. So I like the 90% waiver. It will help Africa grow.
But it's in compliance, of course, with the provisions of the 23rd AFCTA. So Nigeria is only complying,
Yes.
but of course the Guardian, clarifies what this portends for traders. It says this brings clarity and certainty, and that it confirms that Nigeria will grant preferential tariff treatment to all eligible goods upon importation, in line with its commitment under the AFCTA agreement.
Yeah.
So traders know there will be preferential treatment.
AFCFTA was enunciated when it all started as that wind that will blow everyone every good. So yes, Nigeria is implementing it, but it is a general agreement which every country would now need to customize a bit to their own. Yes,
I think
that's a good one.
What Nigeria really needs to do now is to step up on, our industries, our manufacturing companies. You're not left out of this competition. Manufacturing companies, so that of course we have, enough, goods for those coming into trade with us. If we do not have comparative advantage in some of those goods, then the whole purpose of opening up our, yes, would have been defeated. So I think we need to do a lot, especially our textile industries, for instance.
Once upon a time, there was one called Asabatex.
Yes.
Their football club was almost as good as what was in Benin, their Bendel Insurance.
It's still in Benin.
Yeah. Oh, well, they're there, but we don't get
you
to
talk
hear
about
them
Aswani,
anymore.
you talk about this, you know, so many industries, yes, you know, industries and a lot. You cover that. Even the Manufacturers Association, members of the Manufacturers Association themselves, are also asking for, you know, enabling environment.
Exactly.
And then
Aswani, is it still the Aswani we knew in Lagos?
Well, I'd left
that
Lagos.
On Mile 2 Road now,
ago, yes.
Just after we should be on the.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, there were days you couldn't pass. There were days
the fabric was something else.
There were days you couldn't pass through that expressway because of the market. You know, you find
the volume of people,
the volume of people, the quality of textiles, materials.
Quality,
I mean,
clear.
Yes. You could go there and, you know, I mean, you rested.
Why do we allow things, virtually everything to go into decline?
Anyway, let's...
There was a bit you read, and the question I asked is, these people who take advantage of women, is it that they're so ugly that their choice is limited? What's it? Oh, a big a tertiary institution.
Yes, the Vice Chancellor of Ekiti, University of...
We are not convicting him on the air, but the mere fact that is mentioned is a blemish.
It's
you know, if it were abroad, just to mention him, he'll be asked to step aside while investigation, you know, what I'd say abroad.
He's been suspended at the moment.
UK
that's what the story reads.
That's a good one.
What's the
that's a good one.
The Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Ekiti has been suspended. That's what the story says, over sexual harassment allegations.
You know, the thing is that the Ministry of Women Affairs, you know, when former Minister Paul Ntalen was there, we had talks of name and shame. I mean, the register. There was a register, you know, where whoever was found complicit or guilty, you know, of any form of sexual abuse, had his or her name, you know, written in that
name and shame. I like that.
That register. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's still you know.
Yeah, name and shame would not work easily in Africa culture again, because the women are left holding the short end of the stick on this continent. I am not castigating men, but it's a continent that by its own natural arrangement has already put women at a disadvantage. It is in this country that a mother tells a daughter who's been violated, how did it happen to you? Why would it happen to you? Are you the only one who attends that school? Those are negative and devilish questions.
But again, like Henry said, the person involved, you know, the institution are taking action, so it remains allegedly involved.
Yeah.
Yes, you know.
All right. Just before we go, I think the producer says we should go. You know, talking about universities, this news story, it's just not nice at all. Federal government is trying to, you know, make university education accessible and, you know, easy for indigents by coming up with the NEL fund. Now, banks and universities are conniving to shortchange students. I don't understand. Where are we headed?
You know, when we had the MD of NEL Fund, when I had the MD of NEL Fund on our program, we raised that issue, and of course, he said when you know you get to the bridge, you cross it. You know, the student to raise that issue, you know, wasn't a prophet or a prophet, but it's happening.
And it's very sad.
I think that
what
investigations are going on.
On Monday, you said, fine, the flood relief will go to people, but are they going to get up to a half of what has been allocated? Morality does not choose particular places to. If men do not have the attitude of honesty, morality is not going to visit them, because the institution where it is required is a different one.
All right, Chukwudi.
We have to change our ways and go back to whom we were.
Yes, I hear investigations are still ongoing, or, you know, ongoing. NOA and NEL Fund and other, you know, institutions are at it to unravel, you know, how it happened, what happened, and all of that. So we await the result of that investigation, I think. So, Chukwudi, it's time to say, we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you once again for the job you do for us.
By His grace, I will be here.
All right, let's take a break. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be right back in just a moment.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the Real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The new Happic sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just one sachet for your toilet bowl. It gives 10 times better cleaning and big savings too.
Wow, Helen!
Sparkling clean toilet with Happic sachet.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Ìjọba fún wa ní 75,000. NIN ní àti káàdì láti lọ gbà. Nígbà tí mo sì gbà, mo fi ṣe nǹkan tó dáa, mo ra oògùn nínú rẹ̀. Mo ra oúnjẹ tí màá jẹ nínú rẹ̀. Mo sì wọkọ̀ mi náà ń bẹ. A sì fi yòókù ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ ajé pé ká tó máa rí gbé bá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba wa òkè.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria is perched on a treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin, but none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NTA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
Welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we introduce our guests for a conversation on the 2025 flood outlook, let's take this background report put together by Musa Babali.
While many people appreciate and admire the rainy season, there is always an underlying fear of the floods that often accompany the weather. This concern is the motivation behind the flood outlook presentation by the Nigerian Hydrological Services. The predictions are divided into three categories. The first category includes areas at high risk of flooding, with 1,249 communities identified across 176 local governments and the Federal Capital Territory. The second category consists of areas expected to experience flash floods, which may result from poor maintenance or inadequate drainage systems. The following cities may be particularly affected: Abakaliki, Abeokuta, Abuja, Asaba, Benin City, Birnin Kebbi, Calabar, Ibadan, Kaduna, Kano, Lagos, Makurdi, Nguru, Onitsha, Osogbo, Port Harcourt, Sokoto, Warri, and Yola.
Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Lagos, Ogun, Rivers, and Ondo are to experience coastal flooding due to the rising in sea level and tidal surge to impact on fishing, wildlife habitation, and river navigation.
Umar Ibrahim Mohammed, Director General and Chief Executive Officer of NISA, noted that this year's flood forecast extends beyond mapping local government areas to identify specific at-risk communities.
The agency has been able to come up with interventions and novel programs for reducing impact of flood disaster on the most vulnerable communities.
The outlook includes 3 documents addressing flood forecasts, which provide detailed scenarios of potential flooding events, flood risk communication, which offers tools to translate forecasts into timely action, and flood mitigation and adaptation, which outline key measures to reduce vulnerability to flooding.
All right, Musa Baba Aliyu giving us the background report on 2025 flood outlook. Thank you, Musa. We have our guests seated here in the studio, and of course, you know, others joining us via Zoom for this conversation. Let's begin with the introductions. Honorable Umar Ibrahim Mohammed is the DG CEO of NISA. That's, of course, the Hydrological Services Agency. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
And also, Architect Kabir Ibrahim is here, National President of Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And also with us for this discussion is Abdullahi Adamu Usur, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Many thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Nigerians. I bring you greetings from the DG NEMA, together, Omar.
You're welcome. And also joining us, but via Zoom all the way from Asaba Delta State, is Okpo Daniel, the Director, Administration and Finance, State Emergency Management Agency, Delta State. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Again, we are back to the same topic. Year in, year out, we get this seasonal annual flood predictions, and we come back here to ask the same questions, of course, with stakeholders, that are charged with the responsibility of helping us control the flood. And gentlemen, if we look at the predictions from 2023, 2024, even up to 2025, the number of, states affected, have been the same. The number of communities keep increasing. In fact, from 2024 to 2025, 2025, we have more than 1,200 and something communities that will be impacted. And I would like to start with NISA, to ask, given this relay, I call it relay actions, I'm just wondering what is new in the 2025 prediction from NISA.
Thank you very much. We thank God that this year's annual flood outlook actually is significantly different from the previous efforts we've been having. First, we have understood that the most important task there is to save people's lives, their livelihood, and critical infrastructure, both government and private owned. So that is why this year's annual flood outlook was segmented into 3 different documents. We have the usual flood forecast, which presents the scenario of the flooding, and also even at that, this time around we came up with a flood dashboard, which we launched on the 10th. That was Thursday last week. Now that dashboard actually is presenting what is going to happen, when it's going to happen, on a click of your phone. You'll be able to access that dashboard, and it will give you the full information of the flood scenario throughout the year. So, and it's going to be a continuous thing, and it's going to present exactly at-risk communities. That is sectorial-based forecast. So now, apart from that, we also notice that there is a huge gap in terms of relating or cascading the information to the vulnerable communities. So we've identified the area of lapses, the gaps, so we came up with the flood risk communication. So that document is addressing how you be able to communicate with these vulnerable communities, the right way, understanding their mode of adaptation, building resilience to this reoccurring scenario. And the last document, which is the flood adaptation and mitigation also. Now, in that document, we are advising people on how best to save their lives, their livelihoods, and at the same time come up with a strategy on how to build resilience over time. Because climate change is it's a phenomena that we just continue to build up resilience as we study the likelihood of occurrences. So these are some of the differences that the annual flood outlook came with. 2025 annual flood outlook came with.
Okay, Honorable Mohammed, what you said, doesn't change the fact that we're still going to experience losses, as a result of the flood this year, in terms of lives, in terms of livelihoods, farmlands, and all of that.
Well,
no, because maybe that's why I want to get to NEMA to find out what NEMA is doing now that we don't have the floods yet, or is it that NEMA is supposed to work when the floods set in, and people begin to lose a lot of things. So speak to us really. You've heard what NISA has said. The prediction has been out for a number of days, and even before NISA, I know that some other agencies came out with an outlook as regards to rainfall and all of that. So there's an expectation. What is NEMA doing?
Thank you once again. Good morning, Nigerians. Basically, NEMA's mandate is coordination. Our main mandate is to coordinate disasters and emergencies in the country. And coordination entails working with others, collaborating, and working with other stakeholders. If you are coordinating, you build capacities, you sensitize, you educate, you mobilize resources, and so on and so forth. So in our coordination effort, we work with all the relevant agencies, NISA, NEMA, NIMED, military, every other person that has anything to contribute to disaster management in the country. So even before, NIMED released their prediction in February, as far back as February. Even before NIMED released their seasonal climate prediction, NEMA actually convened stakeholders meeting. We call it Emergency Coordination Forum. This is in preparation. We know that the floods are coming, definitely, because just like the DG NISA said, climate change is real. Nobody is pretending. It's coming. So we convene stakeholders Emergency Coordination Forum to assess the level of preparedness of our stakeholders. Ourselves, we assess our own activities. We look at what we did last year, what we did well and to improve, what we did wrongly and to adjust. So we try to look at stakeholders' preparedness, our preparedness vis-a-vis stakeholder preparedness, because we can't do it alone. If only NEMA is prepared and others are not prepared, it means...
No, Mr. Osoro, I'm trying to understand. So
Yeah.
you are preparing for the disaster. You're not doing something now such that the disaster is not maybe as huge as
No, that
you know,
is-
it,
yes,
it would
that's-
be. Because, I mean, from what you're saying, you're just having talks, writing, I mean, paper and all of
No,
that.
no, no,
What are you doing in those communities that have been
That is
listed?
exact. I'm just taking you, I'm giving you a general outlook of the preparedness aspect, because you say, what are we waiting for the floods to come before? I say, no, we are prepared even as far back as before even NIMED released their predictions. We held stakeholders meeting to assess our readiness. Then we keep on. After NIMED immediately released their predictions, we convened expert technical meeting of stakeholders. We brought all those people that have knowledge on one aspect of climate or one aspect that has to do with NIMED's prediction. Those experts looked at NIMED's prediction and brought out the disaster management implications with respect to different aspects of our lives. Water resources, transportation, health, and so on and so forth. A document was then developed. We call the disaster climate-related risk strategies. These documents helps to say who is supposed to do what and what are supposed to be done to mitigate. If the floods come, what do we do to mitigate them? This is where you are now coming. The issues of mitigation. For instance, if what is agri supposed to do? If there's little rainfall in an area, they advise those people in those areas to come out with seedlings that can do fast and so on and so on. Health. If the floods come, definitely cholera and so on and so would come. What are our preparedness? What are our mitigation strategies? So these are the things we did even before and after NIMED's release. Then from there are a lot of activities we are doing even before the actual flooding starts.
You know, I'm sure what Iris wants to know is the nexus between your action, your preparedness, your coordination, and the outlook, the outcome.
Yes.
Usually, hold on. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's even understand what exactly is happening, because sometimes when things like this happen, or persist, you begin to wonder what is the underlying, or what are the underlying causes. And that's why I'm coming to Architect Kabir Adamu, who is a farmer. I'm just wondering why we are having, recurrence of flooding. And I'm happy NISA has segregated, the predictions this year and gone to, flood risk communities, that have predictions for flood risk communities. And those are communities where we have, you know, our food reservoir, you know, communities that are agrarian, that are basically farmers and all that. I'm just wondering, is there a connection between what the federal is doing and the state coordinators, or is it just sheer absence of political will?
Well, I'm happy that we're here today. It's almost becoming...
I'm not happy that we're here today speaking about the same
flooding. I am talking about the fact that we have NISA, we have NEMA, and previously we had NIMET. And they have cautioned us as farmers as to what to do and what to expect when these things happen. Further than that, we are all aware from the... Before the interview, you were talking of 2021, 2022, 2023, and the global effect of the climate on agriculture and many other things in life. Now, what we are hearing from them is preparing us to know what to do as farmers, to plant, to avoid flood-prone areas, to choose the type of crops, to do a lot of work on sanitation and removing whatever, you know, encumbrances are there in the hydrological structures and all that, to minimize the effect of this. But all this is work in progress. If you look at the best communities on earth, if you take the United States of America, they are always grappling with flooding. Flooding has come to stay, especially when for a very long time we were in denial of climate change. Now that this is real and is in Nigeria, what I think from my point of view we should do is to make sure that even before the incident, we are doing certain things to minimize the occurrence of the incident. Because in other climates, where for instance agriculture is key and to the economy, which should be the same in Nigeria as a matter of fact. Oil is a bonus. Nigeria is purely agrarian. So there must be concerted effort from all of them, all of the players, to make sure that these things are minimized.
If you look,
my name is not Architect Adamu, Architect
Ibrahim. Kabiru Ibrahim, yes. Sorry. I keep making this mistake. I'm calling you Adamu and all that. I'm sure Kabiru Adamu will be wondering what is wrong with Claire anyway. Architect Kabiru Ibrahim. If you look at the predictions, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20, whatever, 24, up to this year, the states that are impacted are the same. The communities that are impacted are increasing. They are increasing. And each year that the predictions are made, farmers are being prepared. Does that mean that, I mean, something must be wrong? It's either we are not doing the right thing, or the things we are doing are not the right things.
Well, I want to predicate this on a number of factors. You know, just don't look at, if you look at the places where flooding is taking place, there are natural, you know, the places are placed naturally to be prone to that. If they are near
mostly coastal
areas
there are also areas that are not within the coastal plains.
Yes, but the major thing about the Nigerian psyche is that you wait for others to do things that are beneficial to you. We are responsible for some of the devastation because of our lack of being proactive in terms of doing those things that we should do to minimize the effect of flooding, for instance. If the drainage or the hydraulic structures in our neighborhood or where we do our farming are clogged, we will definitely have flooding because water will find its way. We should do that. We should proactively also do that. We are not lucky that there are dashboards now. You can even see where it will happen. So once you are told that, you go in. Now farmers and everybody else, even NTA here, you know, some of your facilities are in a trough actually. What you should do is, with the cleaning people here, should be able to see all these areas and clear them. Just the same thing as I would do near my farm, near everybody's farm, near everybody's household, every street, everywhere. We must be able to clean up. The society will be better for it. The effects will be there. They will happen. I told you, no matter what preparations you do, certain things are force majeure. They are from God. They happen. But those things can also be minimized. The effect of them on the community, on the economy, on livelihood will be minimized if efforts are made. And this is all I'm saying. But whatever predictions, whatever revelations we have, whatever advice we have is work in progress in Nigeria.
All right.
But the bottom line is we must do something to mitigate the effect of climate change.
All right. Let's talk about mitigation, really, because we still have some weeks before the rains to set in fully, and then the flooding would, come in full force. Many thanks, Architect Ibrahim. Let's get to Okpo Daniel now, who joins us from Delta State. I'd like you to speak to us about what the prediction says for Delta State specifically. How many communities are at risk this year? And tell us, what are you doing? What's your agency doing, State Emergency Management Agency, Delta State, doing at the moment, to mitigate the effect of the flood this year?
Thank you very much. From the predictions we have, just like you rightly said, the same local government areas, about 19 in Delta State, will face flooding this year. And presently, we have been able to get some work in order. The Ministries of Environment Works, they are cleaning the drains, waiting, expecting that when the rains come, it will flow. But there are those coastal areas that certainly, I think it's increasing, the communities are increasing. What we are doing, firstly, we have informed them through town hall meetings about the predictions that came first in February. And this one, we are preparing to have a stakeholders meeting where everyone will join hands to work together. Like the states, I can say the state is one of the foremost states that handles a disaster when it comes to flooding. In the state, we have areas where we keep people when the flood is high. That's IDP camps. We have nothing less than about 12, 13 areas where we can keep people for safety for the period. The state is always set to handle this type of situation.
To handle this kind of situation. Tell us what it was like in 2024. Speak to us about what it was like in 2024 and how did you handle it that makes you feel that 2025 will be different for Delta State?
Yes, like 2024, we had the flooding in the state, and all the communities were brought together by each local government chairman. They handled the whole situation. So you see, like Delta State is a place where if we have this type of situation, we'll have mechanism. In the state, we'll have a flood management committee. The moment the flood, before the flood comes in, we'll have that committee reconstituted. They take care of everything that is happening in the state relating to flooding. And that issue for us here, we are doing very well with it.
Let me just still, probe further. I'm just wondering, what kind of flooding do you experience in your state? And I'm also wondering, why flooding will persist, in those areas that you've talked about, if you've actually taken action.
Yes, firstly, we've taken action, but if you consider the position, the topography in Delta State, it's just like an estuary. It's a low area. So every community in such places will certainly experience flooding because we are not doing anything to change the topography. The topography is natural. So whenever flooding comes, it gets in there. And here we experience flash flooding because of the topography. We experience river flooding more whenever it's at the peak of the rainy season.
I want to stay with you some more because, you know, I need some clarification to what you say, what you mean by you're taking action. Because when you said taking action, you talked about setting up a committee. And I'm asking because I'm sure other states who didn't take action want to take action, or who haven't taken action want to take action. Tell us in practical terms what you're doing. Is it that you're evacuating the people before time? Is it that you have built a wall, to stop the flood waters from, getting into certain places? I mean, practically what you did, is it that the drains have been, cleared? What did you do really, in 2024 and that you have repeated in 2025 that makes you feel that the effect will be minimal on the people of Delta State?
In disaster management, we have actions before, during, and after. The actions before comprises information, comprises clearing the drains and all. So before the rains will come in, our drains are already clear. By now, if you go to the streets of the city and other local government areas, you see workers cleaning the drains, removing, desilting them, so that flows can commence and be free. Then during the flood era, what we do is we evacuate them. Those people that are in difficult areas, we evacuate them, keep them in a particular place where they will be safe. Then after the flooding, they go back to their communities. Though here, what we normally experience is once it starts, farm produce and everything is damaged. And it creates a lot of suffering in all families that are affected. Here we do all these things because we have a standard system whereby we can monitor activities. As I speak to you now, the drains are being cleared everywhere. More are being constructed to channel off flow.
All right, Mr. Akwa, thank you very much. We'll return to you presently. Let's come back to the studio. And did you know, sir? All I'm hearing, architect, Kabiru Ibrahim said, I mean, climate change has come to stay. And we've heard Mr. Akwa talk about the topography of Delta, which means whatever we do, Delta will still experience either of the types of flooding, whether it's flash flood or whatever. I'm just wondering, I mean, is it a national event? Has flooding now become a national event, an annual event that we must talk about, or a national emergency?
Well, call it national emergency or national event, definitely it has come to stay. All we can do is to try to build resilience and try to adapt and manage the situation to the best of our abilities. Now, actually, you have a couple of measures. You have both the structural and non-structural measures to be taken. Now, the structural measures could be proper assessment of the existing dams, making sure that those dams are being reduced. The water within the dams is reduced to a certain level such that it can accommodate the coming rainfall and the coming water drain from the rivers to the dams, such that you will not have overflow of dams, and at the same time you will not have an emergency release of waters from the dam. That also causes havoc to the communities within the river areas. At the same time, you put dikes, you use sandbags to control the flood. You redirect, that is the river training, such that it will not flow against maybe agricultural farmland and communities to avoid or to reduce the impact of this water going towards community and displacing them. Now, again, the non-structural are programs that you put in place to reduce the risk, to reduce the damages this flooding could possibly make. Now, some of these non-structural strategies, NISA was able to look further, deep down into what are the major causes of this flooding and how does it occur. So now by doing so, we realize that this current government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to boost and improve food security through agriculture. Now, how do we contribute in improving that? Now, NISA came up with, we mapped out some of these farmlands And we saw that we could come up with a scheme called the Flood Insurance Program to be able to reduce the damages being ascertained or being impacted on people that are the farmers directly, especially. Now we're collaborating with state governments. Jigawa State Governor, as well as Kogi State Governor, had already keyed into this program, whereby at the pilot stage, which we've commissioned during the annual flood outlook, at the pilot, we're looking into Kogi, Jigawa, and we have already mapped out the farmlands within a community, just as pilot, proof of concept. The farmland, the livestock, and the households, the houses of these farmers. We have already mapped out those areas. And we look into, after the devastating flood comes, if it affects this mapped out areas, we'll be able to see how to resuscitate those that are affected, like the farmers or the household, immediately. Because usually, after this flooding, if it affects a farmer, maybe a farmer has invested so much into his farm, then at the end of the day, maybe just a week or 2 weeks to harvesting, or even days, then flood comes and washed away everything. It sometimes, or most of the times, it takes them a year or more than a year to recover. So, but with that now, you will have an immediate recovery system in place. If you lose your house or livestock, you are just starting with these three
states.
Exactly, such that we'll be able to control it and see how it works out. In the second phase, we intend to go further into identifying schools, healthcare facilities within these communities, roads, and other critical infrastructures.
Sorry, Enyere. I remember this insurance was mooted here on Good Morning Nigeria during one of our conversations. I'm sure you remember, and we talked about the need to implement that. But it's a good thing you are starting with the pilot of this now. But talk to us about the framework for implementation and how should I say beneficiaries or the farmers are expected to key into this.
Yes, certainly. What we've looked into is farmers can hardly afford the premium. So that is why we are bringing in the state governors. Now, instead of after flooding, they come with relief materials, giving them a bag of rice or a gallon of oil. Now, the state government can actually do something before. That is part of the proactive measures to be able to provide the premium for these communities, such that whatever devastating effect that comes on, at least the state government had done something in preparation to reduce, to alleviate, now to cushion the weight of one's lost, the farmer's lost or the household lost. At least he will get back what he has lost almost immediately. So that is the very essence of the flood insurance program.
DG, I'm listening to you about, talk about this insurance, and I'm thinking, how is it that the flood in itself, cannot be, the effect of it cannot be reduced, as much as possible? That's what I'm thinking. Because, the effort channeled towards trying to resuscitate the farmers or those affected after the flooding, can't we channel it into things that would prevent the effect from being
like the structural methods,
exactly,
on how to control?
Yes.
That was why I started saying you have the structural and non-structural, but we do both. Now, part of the structural.
What has been the success story of the structural? How far have we gone in the country? How many states have? Actually,
we are just starting putting them in place, into action. Now, let me tell you one of the structural mitigative project that NISA intends to start, which also we are collaborating with the line states. Now, we are looking at Kogi down to Bayelsa as also pilot to be able to desilt the major river Now, the flooding from Kogi to Bayelsa is unprecedented, simply because the river there is narrow and it's been silted. So now we are looking also into dredging that river, expanding it and increasing the depth, such that we'll have a continuous seamless water flow without really too much affecting the riverine communities there, which also we are working with the line state governors, like I said, to see how to come up with this program. Now, these are the structural program. Now, that's also a pilot. If successfully done, we are going to look into from Kogi to Kebbi State, as well as from Kogi to Adamawa State, to see how to apply the same program or project, such that, because the major flooding that takes place in this country is actually as a result of the silted rivers or waterways we have, the tributaries. Both the tributaries and the major rivers are highly silted. And having such a project is gigantic. So you need concerted efforts, both state governments and all the key actors within the industry, to be able to bring in inland waterways, Ministry of Works, and lots of other stakeholders needs to be involved in achieving that project. So we're actually looking into that also. Now, by doing so, we'll certainly see reduction in the effect of flooding from Kogi down to Bayelsa State.
Okay, before I bring in the president of all farmers, because everything we're talking about will impact on farmers and our food production, let me also ask about the insurance policy on flooding. And I'm just wondering, you just said, you're keen with the state government. Is it targeted at specific crops or probably livestock that are vulnerable to flooding, or is it a blanket?
No, for now.
For now.
It's a specific communities that are picked out from these two states. One. Secondly, it's just the farmland. Whatever crop you are producing, just the farmland, the livestock, as well as the households of persons within that community.
Within that community. How does it work for you, for farmers?
Well, it's quite helpful, in the long run. But, we were here, you spoke about insurance, you didn't give out the detail. I had said and challenged NAEC. NAEC is set up for agricultural insurance. What I am saying is, we should have a fleet insurance policy which covers flooding, which covers any losses from anything. And the farmers are willing to pay at least 1,000 naira in a fleet. You have this large sum of money. You can call it flood fund. You can call it anything. This is what happens in the United States. If you see these floodings or fires where things get lost and all that, how do the people go back? Insurance pays.
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, we must have this. NAEC is there. Almost insurance companies are there because you need insurance to take a loan. So you insure because of the loan, in anticipation of the loan. What about getting ready for any unforeseen circumstance? This is what insurance should mean. So please, I want the insurance effort they are making is only a drop in the ocean compared to what NAEC can do on everything.
But the farmers trust insurance
now this is where we need to really make institutions to work. In Nigeria, all institutions must work, and they should not work in silos. NAEC insurance, for instance, should pay optimally so that the people who are being compensated will go back to the land, and they should not delay payments. Now, this is why I said all farmers, whether you have problems or not, you pay a small token. You have this fund. So when people affected are offset from this, are helped, are compensated from this fund, everybody will be incentivized to pay it. Now, the dearth of funds in NAEC, which we know because we have been interacting with them, is also one of the reasons why they are not able to meet their obligations. But once we put our resources together as farmers, and we can talk about it, We can say, after all, we have paid all this. Why are you not doing this? So we challenge them to work. And we can even tell the government, look at these people that you put. We keep paying them this money, and they are leaving everything to the federal government. You can. I wonder why you did not talk of the flooding incident in 2022, where so many farmlands and so many rice farmers lost their livelihood in Jigawa and in Kebbi. And the people were waiting for the federal government to come and give something. And they gave a little, and then nobody was able to even go back. We made a lot of effort, spent a lot of money on rice production and all that in this country through Anko Boroa. Look at the trillions of naira. We still have problems with rice. So a lot of these things require concerted effort, as the DG said, from all angles, all actors. It's a very large ecosystem. Everybody must put their own best to make everything work. We cannot work in silos. We should all coalesce. All our efforts should coalesce. NTA is doing a good job by calling these people and making them tell Nigerians what is going to happen and what is happening. And I like the probing from her that, look, why don't you do something to prevent the occurrence of flooding? There are other countries in this world that are 30% below sea level. They are very prone to flooding, yet there are no floodings. So we need a lot of engineering work to be able, look at Nigeria in one clean sweep, Google, look at it, look at the topography, do a lot of engineering work, make sure that the floodings are minimal.
Before we even talk about the structural aspects, and what can be done, the DG talked about the fact that in this pilot, state governors are to pay the premium. And I'm wondering, what does Architect Kabir Ibrahim think about that? See, do you envisage any bureaucracy or logjam?
Let me tell you my take on all this. When we had COVID-19, treatment centers and all that were first left to the federal government. But when things happened, the state governments all participated. As far as I'm concerned, if the economy of my state, for instance, which is dependent on agriculture, is impacted by flooding, as it is impacted by banditry and whatever, the state is duty bound and is forced to really be proactive. So marking those states, and there are states where you have had so many incidents of flooding, it is in their larger interest of the governance structure there to really come in and play a role. To be sure that there is stability, there is macroeconomic stability in that place. Otherwise, there will be famine, and there will be turbulence, and they become ungovernable. So it is in the larger interest of the states to really take part in this. Don't allow only the federal government. The federal government cannot do it all. Yeah. In fact, when he mentioned the issue of food security, I am a proponent of saying you should look at food security on a regional level. If you have you have yam as staple in a certain region, do not say you are doing a blanket production of rice. For some of them, rice is not food. Therefore, you accord every region what it should maximize. That where it has the advantage, competitive advantage, should be supported so that you have global food security within Nigeria.
Right. Many thanks, Architect Ibrahim, for your thoughts on this. Talking about the insurance, of course, I know many people would kick against that, considering what is going on at the moment, or what has gone on with schemes like that, and then what's happening now with the NEL fund issue. Whenever it comes to things like this, people are just skeptical because a few people would want to capitalize on it. But I want to get to NEMA now, and Mr. Osur, I still want to find out what you're doing with the states and maybe the local government, chairman or administration in all of this. Because sitting in Abuja and having meetings, I do not know how it trickles down to a community that is likely going to be flooded this year.
Thank you, Henry. That's just like I explained, the coordination is in two ways. that's when I talk of disaster management coordination in the country, is in two ways. We have the vertical coordination and the horizontal coordination. The vertical coordination is NEMA coordinates with its directorate, zonal directorates, up to operational offices. We have 6 zonal directorates and 17 operational offices. And then we coordinate with state emergency management agencies vertically, up to local emergency management committees. That's where you are talking about the local communities. So when we do sensitization, as we speak, our operational offices are already carrying out sensitization, because that's the part of the non-structural operations which we do. We don't go into structural because of the expertise and huge funding in it, but we do more of non-structural aspect, flood preparedness and mitigation and response. So the sensitization is key. Public education is very important. We sensitize people. This document that we are developing are early warning messages, which we now sensitize. We downscale it at the state level and at local government level. And this is really what happened to, the effect is that it reduces the exposure, it reduces the vulnerability of people, and then it helps to mitigate the effect. Just like we keep saying, everybody agrees that you cannot stop flooding because it's climate related, but we can mitigate the impact. We can reduce the impact by proper public education, proper sensitization, and taking simple measures that can reduce the impact, like just dredging your gutters. You know, it helps in reducing urban flooding. So this is the sensitization we do at local government level. Each state is supposed to set up a state emergency management agency, just like we had at the federal, and each local government is supposed to set up a local emergency management committees. NEMA is helping all those states in doing that. A lot of states have already set up the local emergency management committees, which will now downscale whatever we are doing at the federal, down to state, down to local communities. In fact, we have even gone beyond that. We are setting up what we call emergency volunteers at the local grassroots emergency volunteers at the grassroots level to educate and sensitize the public as to the effect of climate change and reduce the impact. These are things that we do in collaboration with the states, because whatever I see, and I think I just want to make an input in the insurance issue, though of course you have exhaustively discussed it. Just last week, NEMA, and you know, it's a collaborative effort. Efforts are not too much. You cannot say just because somebody is doing something else, you cannot also help in that aspect. He talked about their pilot. NEMA is also working. Last week, we held a high-level national workshop on disaster risk financing, which we did together with African Reinsurance. We had a workshop where NICOM was there. All the major insurance companies were there. Just like what NISA is doing, we're also trying to see how we can at least mitigate the impact of this flooding. Not only flooding, in fact, NEMA is looking at the larger aspect, fire disasters, flood disasters, even drought. So we are just starting now. Let's start with sensitizing people. Let's even...
In that sensitization,
yeah.
I want to find out, are all the states cooperative? You talked about the fact that there's states emergency. I'm asking that because as we speak, the 6th African Regional Conference on Irrigation and Drainage is ongoing in Abuja. It started yesterday. I know for a fact that only very few states sent representatives to that conference. You know, that's just one off. So, I'm asking, in all of these efforts, are the states really in tune with what NEMA is trying to do, or
that's why I asked the question when. That's why I asked the question when the DJ talked about the state governors paying the premium for the insurance. Please.
Yes, you see, Eric, whether we like it or not, the federal government cannot do it alone. We always say, we have this saying that disasters happen at somebody's backyard. That backyard belongs to somebody. It's not the federal government. It happens at a local community. That local community belongs to a local government. That local government is in a state. So you must work with these people. The most important.
Are they willing to work with you?
They are to some extent. Of course, there are lapses, but of course, with years of advocacy, you know, advocacy and capacity building. NEMA is doing a lot in building capacities of SEMAs. If you compare some 10, 15 years ago, in fact, most states did not even have SEMAs. But as we speak now, most of them have SEMAs. A lot of them have. And then we are building their capacity.
Who holds them accountable for non-compliance? Yes, because somebody must be held accountable for non-compliance.
Well, this is a federation. Nigeria is a federation. So all we need to do is to collaborate. We cannot force anybody at the federal level, but we encourage and support them, build capacities. We do trainings for them. We organize training for them. Even the meeting we had, we invited. There's no program that we do here in Abuja that we don't pick SEMAs and bring them. Either it is training or capacity building or sensitization or whatever. And then when we work, when we go to state, you don't just go to somebody's house and begin to do something without him. So you must work with them. We must encourage them. We must encourage. And part of this encouragement is we do each year, at least once or twice, NEMA goes to the Nigerian Governors Forum to advocate, to bring advocacy. There's benefit in setting up your SEMAs and empowering them. Because when you reduce the impact, when you prepare, you reduce the impact.
So technically you're begging the governors to take part in a program that will save lives.
We are encouraging them and we are working with them.
Great. I hear that we need to go for a break. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us.
I think we should just tell the state governors, the truth.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move a subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and of course I've just been reminded that you can always send in your SMS messages. Let's hear your comments, your suggestions, and of course your advice. And the number to send your messages will be displayed soon on the screen. But just before we read out some of the messages that we have, it's already right there. Just before we read some of those messages, let's get back to Mr. Okpo Daniel, who is joining us via Zoom from Delta State. Mr. Okpo, you are the State Director Administration and Finance, State Emergency Management Agency in Delta State, which means part of your responsibilities, of course, apart from evacuation drills, conducting evacuation drills and sensitization, you are also supposed to be liaising with the local government in terms of community-based preparedness. So how are you liaising at that community-based level with the LGAs, for instance, to prevent people from settling down, along the floodplains or even building on the floodplains?
Yes, what we do in that aspect is using the town planners to go to those places and stop building on those terrain that the people certainly will be affected if there is a flood. But in all local governments in the states, we have local volunteers. We have those that we use from the local government chairman to the list. We have all the president generals in all the communities. So whenever there is any situation, we call on them. And they are the people we equally use to disseminate quick information through town criers to all communities, informing them of either impending flood or what to do so that they will be able to go out of being highly impacted. We have jingles that run through several local stations, TV and radio, that informs people of all this we've been discussing. And up to now, those jingles are still going on in the States.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Okpo Daniel. I think we have some responses.
Yes, yes, we'll take the responses. I was just trying to, check the effect of the flood in Delta State in 2024, and the statistics I'm saying are quite different from, some of the things that Mr. Okpo is telling us. I mean, there was relative damage, houses, farmlands, and but of course we'll get back to him and get some clarification on all of that. Let's look at some messages that we got from those watching. By the way, you can still send in your messages. The number is 0816 968 8126. Text messages only. We have a message here from Christopher Osiegbeme from Jatu, Edo State, and it says, the major causes of flooding in Nigeria, according to experts, are the silting of River Niger and River Benue and the northern tributaries, and the refusal to dam the River Benue since 1982, when Cameroon dammed the Lagdo in the case of water releases from the dam. In Nigeria, dredging the River Niger and Benue, and of course damming, if you dam River Benue, I think that's what the message is trying to say here, the issue of annual flooding, particularly coastal flooding, will be a thing of the past. I think you were trying to talk about dams, the DG of NISA, and of course you talked about dredging of, some of the rivers. So that's one message here.
Yes, okay. I have this one from Abdulkadir Dibayo Jimo, and he sent in this SMS from Lokoja. He writes, flood disaster in Nigeria is being discussed based on certain committees' paperwork without putting in place safety regulations before the rains come. He says, sorry, gentlemen, actions have failed in correcting them. He said, and this is as a result of personal enrichment. There is no practical presence of things to minimize losses. Bad management, no lessons learned by experts. Do you have another one? I have one other one from Lucas Sunday. Lucas says, the fact is that how are they trying to prevent or reduce the disaster? That's a question. Okay. So I don't know. This one, reduction of disaster, of course, maybe by building structural. Maybe let's take from the DG NISA. Reduction of disaster. How do we go about it? Is it by emergency relief or by constructing structure?
By being proactive, by putting in place measures that can reduce the impact to its barest minimum.
Proactive on paper?
Sorry?
Are we being proactive on paper or proactive, at the moment, looking at 2025?
No. We're putting the paper writing into action. So that's what we're doing. And that's why I was saying that we are coming with a lot of pilot programs. Also, it is also important to note that the introduction or establishing of safe corridors could also help communities, vulnerable communities as well, which the agency, together with NIMET, is trying to see, and state governments, also our local governments, establish these safe corridors within the flood-prone, most vulnerable flood-prone communities. So these are all things that we are putting in place. And I hope and I wish next year, if we are sitting like this, we'll just tell you the success stories.
I hope we don't even get to sit like this, because everything would have been done, and there will be no need to talk about it, because instead we should be talking after the rains. We'll come sit down and talk about the fact that we experienced some successes.
Yeah,
there were no much flood, in certain parts
and the number of communities
affected
reduced. Number of states reduced.
Number of farmlands affected reduced. I mean, that's what we should be talking about. But you see, I wanted to ask a question, and somehow someone was reading my mind and sent in a text message in that regard. I wanted to ask what NEMA is doing, to deal with corruption this year when it comes to relief materials, because that's been an issue, for many people, that when the flood comes in, relief materials are sent from the federal government, there are donors everywhere. But I mean, some of these things just end up in warehouses and all of that. And there's a message to that regard. This one says, the level of insincerity at the local government area is really high. The federal and state governments will send relief to flood victims. The people at the local government areas and communities representatives will keep it to themselves. And that's coming from Kingsley Chidi.
Okay, thank you. Our relief intervention, just like I said, we don't do things in a hidden room or something. Everything we do is in the open. Our relief process is that we work with the state emergency management. Whatever intervention we do, we work with them. Because just like I said, these things happen in a state and it happens in somebody's backyard. So for when we process relief, we take it to our zonal offices, and then they work together with the state emergency management agencies and do direct distribution. So I don't know if maybe after somebody has gotten his own, if he decides to do whatever he wants to do with it, but our process is very, very open and is very transparent. For donations, yes, last year we got some donations, particularly for the Maiduguri flooding, and everything was also open. We got donations from UAE, United Arab Emirates. We got donations from all those things are properly done and properly handed in public with NTA and everybody covering these things. So
you see, that's what people talk about. That I know part of the responsibilities of NEMA is to coordinate national disaster preparedness and response, and also to lead evacuation and temporary planning. Like Lucas Sunday is asking, what are the long-term plan for resilience to reduce disaster? Are we just being reactionary? Because that's what it is. It looks like.
No, I think well, you cannot run away from response, but of course, just like the paradigm shift is, we are placing more emphasis on disaster risk reduction now.
How? That's the how.
Yes, exactly.
The viewer, look at Sunday, for instance.
Yes,
wants to know what you're doing.
Yes, in
this regard.
Yes, let me explain. If you go and educate people that if you do this, it will lead to this. If you don't do this, like for instance, building code, enforcement of building code, which is very, very important in reducing urban flooding. The flood we used to have in Abuja is basically non-enforcement of building code. People build on flood plains. Somebody must be responsible for giving out the approvals for those things. So if you enforce and stop people from building in flood plains, you are doing disaster risk reduction. You are reducing the impact of the flood before it happens to people. You are also, if you sensitize people to evacuate waste from drainage, and so you are reducing, you are mitigating even before the urban flooding comes. You are mitigating it. The water will flow freely. The issue of drainage, dredging, but this one is capital intensive. But if you dredge the water, you are now expanding the river widths, and it carries more water. But of course, some of these things are capital intensive. Some of these things can be done, even by local government.
Some of them also just need synergy. Yeah. Architect Kabiru talked about people working in silos, stakeholders, agencies working in silos. You talked about the need for enforcement of building codes. How are you coordinating with the relevant agency, responsible for that?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We are working with the state, and the states, they own this building, what do you call it? Building codes. Building control. So each year, we work with FCT, SEMA, and through their building control. And we have been hammering that state must enforce, because it is the states that have those laws. They must enforce those laws so that people don't build on floodplain. And if people build on floodplain, they must be able to evacuate them and ask them to move to higher ground. But sometimes people are very adamant because they say this is their ancestral home, they don't want to go. So if the flood comes, and sometimes these international laws, you don't force people by force. There has to be some kind of agreement between states to move people to higher ground and find places for them.
All right. Sorry, just before we leave NEMA, there's a question for you.
Okay.
How can one become a NEMA grassroots volunteer? What are the criteria or requirements? I want to be a volunteer. This is Ubi, and he sent in his message from Abuja.
Okay, where is he?
He's in Abuja.
Okay. He needs to contact our operations office. If you contact our operations office, they have whatever requirements for registering grassroots volunteers. The initial plan we had was to have at least minimum of 200 per local government. It has been ongoing for some time. So they help in at least giving first information, first response. They're part of. So we give people basic training, basic first aid training, basic disaster management training, basic information gathering training.
Okay.
So it's just to contact our operations office and then
in Abuja.
Yes, Abuja. If it's in Abuja. If it's elsewhere, we have only 17 operations. We are not in all the 36 states. We have 17 operation offices across the 6 political zones.
All right. Many thanks, Mr. Osir. We have more messages, but, you know, Claire, like I was saying, I was trying to check the effect of the flood in Delta State in 2024, and I can find that over 76,000 individuals were affected. Over 11,282 households were also affected. And then there was a report about 11 communities overrun by flood in 2024. You know, that's just goes to show that more needs to be done in 2025, you know, by Delta State, you know, like Mr. Daniel was trying to say. But going back to the messages that we have gotten, Hajara Amadu from Kantagora in Niger State just says, good morning to you all. I love your program. Thank you so much. Continue to watch Good Morning Nigeria. And this one is coming from Mr. Emmanuel from Lagos. It reads, they have a canal at Peace Estate, Iba Ojo, Lagos. It is supposed to be dredged at least twice a year. As he speaks, it is already covered with weeds, and so water cannot flow in it. Please help them to dredge it so as to save them from persistent floods. Who should we channel this to?
Read the location again.
It says Peace Estate, Iba Ojo. Iba
Ojo in
Lagos.
Iba Ojo in Lagos. All right.
Okay, I hope you've noted. There's one more, just before we go, one more. Engineer Kashim Ali, I'm sure we all know Engineer Kashim Ali, and he's saying that the perennial flooding in Nigeria is caused by uncontrolled flow or flow in our water channels, and the impact is more along the river Benue Channel because the planned dams have not been constructed. And I know that last time, again, Engineer Kashim Ali talked about this planned dam on this Benue Channel. He's asking what is being done about putting these dams in place. Again, DG. Sorry, they are putting you on the hot seat.
No, actually. Yeah, he's quite right. River Benue happens to be one of the major rivers that has a lot of tributaries, and that is why we experience a lot of flooding on that river catchment. Now, a lot of people are thinking that it is as a result of the Lagdo Dam releases, water releases, which definitely is not. We have a lot of other dams on that feeds to that river, like the Kashimbila Dam, you have the Kiri Dam, you have quite a number of dams there, you know, in the northeastern part of the country that contributes, that channels a lot of water on River Benue. And at the same time, the Lagdo Dam, well, actually Lagdo Dam, since last year we came up with a strategy. We begin to release the water in good time. We're about to start discussing on how they release their water such that the dam will have sufficient space to accommodate the incoming waters from the rainfall as well as the rivers within the Lagdo Dam catchment area. So definitely, and again, I think there are about 2 dams. Now, one has been commissioned already in Adamawa that is supposed to receive immediately the water that flows in from the Lagdo Dam. I think it has been commissioned this year. So a lot of progress is in dam commission. I think within the last 4 months, about 4 dams were commissioned. I think 3, to be precise, are along the Benue River. One in Benue State, I think one in Adamawa, and I think one, I'm not too sure of the location.
Okay, you know, DG, you know, as you speak, I'm just thinking in my mind, if we're really ready to deal with this issue of flooding, such that we want to prevent, you know, or rather minimize the effect. I'm asking that because if we didn't have messages from, you know, viewers, this particular canal will probably not been noticed for dredging this year and may affect people. Are we not supposed to know the areas that need to be checked before the floods come in and just do the needful without citizens having to listen to Good Morning Nigeria and then begin to point out areas where, okay, you need to dredge this, you need to desilt this and all of that? Are we really ready to deal with this issue of flooding?
Yeah, certainly. And that is why we are coming with a lot of pilot programs, like I earlier said, because after last year's flood event, the agency decided to holistically assess all the water bodies, particularly the rivers, major rivers and the tributaries and its tributaries. We are looking into it, assessing it, and understanding the pattern of flooding, what are the real causes of flooding. Right now, we are having a program in Sokoto State, where we are trying to recharge a groundwater that was since lost, and it's really affecting the farming, particularly the irrigation activities in that place. And it's as a result of the river changing its course. So we're trying to redirect the course to the older pattern, to its usual pattern, such that. So now a lot of programs like this are going on. That one is ongoing. I think we're about 70% into completion.
Okay, let's take some more messages. I like this very one. Very interesting. Engineer Kashim Ali, thank you so much for responding to us. This one says, insurance should normally be for unforeseen circumstances. Shouldn't the investment in insurance be put instead into providing the infrastructure that will contain the flooding in the first instance?
Come again, I don't understand what you mean.
Insurance should normally be for unforeseen circumstances.
Certainly.
I mean, what you don't expect.
Yeah.
But for flooding, we are expecting it. All right. Now, it says, shouldn't the investment in insurance be put instead into providing the infrastructure that will contain the flooding in the first instance?
Probably he misunderstood the whole concept. The concept there is to be able to put quick recovery into the affected ones.
Meaning that the flood will have massive impact on the people?
It depends. We wouldn't know, because there are indices that could determine whether you qualify for the insurance or not.
Okay, let's quickly. Shuaibu Yakasai says, NEMA and NIMET are doing their best. Therefore, the state should enforce building plans and land allocation mechanisms. And let's quickly, Architect Kabiru, you've been listening all along, but we know that when these predictions are made, they affect certain crops. And for instance, we are looking at maize, rice, especially millets, in the north, where farming is, very, very extensive and all that. What's your message now in view of the predictions for this year?
Well, the predictions are to prepare us to mitigate effects of flooding. Flooding is common, it's almost cliche now that flooding must happen. Prior to 2022, floodings in Nigeria were spaced on a 10-year period. Serious floodings. 2012, then to 2022. Let us interrogate what is really wrong. Place this alongside climate change. Make concerted effort to mitigate the effect of climate change. Because climate change is now a bigger threat to food security in Nigeria than even the insecurity we have been looking at. Because last year, as the DG said, just at the point of harvest, we had serious flooding, such that some of the crops you mentioned were submerged and they even began to germinate. Our farmers could not take them. Therefore, we have a serious deficit in almost all these things you are mentioning. In fact, what we are saying now to the governors, especially in the north, is that they should come together, pool resources, and make sure that they optimize the production of some of these things that are staple for their people, and support the farmers to do more so that Nigeria itself will attain food security.
Engineer, Architect Kabiru Ibrahim, thank you. I just want to say a big thank you to all of you. Of course, we could not take the many SMS messages that we have received, so we appreciate you. Don't forget tomorrow, keep this number down. You can send in your comments and suggestions. The number is right there on your screen, 081-696-88126. Let me thank Ubi in Abuja, Luka Sunday, Abdulkadir Adebayo from Lokoja, Shuaibu Jakasai, and of course, Kashim Ali.
Of course, the list is a long one. We may not have time to take all of that, but we sincerely appreciate you. Let's also thank our guest right here in the studio, Honorable Umar Ibrahim Muhammad, DG and CEO of NISA, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. It was a pleasure to have you, and we hope to have you some other time, but not to talk about flood, of course. Architect Kabiru Ibrahim, National President of AFAN. Thank you so much for being our guest, and we hope that the effect of flooding this year will be minimal as possible. Abdullahi Adamu also, Director of Relief and Rehabilitation, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
And of course, we appreciate Okpo Daniel, Director Administration and Finance at Delta State Emergency Management Agency. Many thanks for being our guest, and we hope that you take more action just so that you can mitigate the effect of the flood this year. All right, so that's our package this morning. I'm Ian Ray John.
I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Zak. Have a good day. Bye-bye.